Those are metal filings from the brake rotor stuck to the magnetic ABS wheel speed sensor. The inside had unfortunately gone metal to metal with the pad. The outside of the rotor appeared normal. Here's how I went from old to new. Decided to use Bestis. Their Element 3 rotors are great for the Rust Belt, which is where I live, and the brake pads are good too. Last but not least, new calipers and hoses. Because this van had 250,000+ miles and it was metal on metal, it was time for a full brake refresh. Hard to see here, but I like to compress the calipers with a screwdriver. I put it in between the pad and the rotor and just pry. This forces brake fluid back into the master cylinder and makes less mess when disconnecting the caliper. And it helps it slide off the rotor so you can secure it or hang it. Break the rotor free with a hammer if it's rusted to the hub. What do you think about the choice to replace these rotors versus machining? I also like to address the wheel hub and clean it with a OTC or OEM brand wheel hub cleaner, wheel hub scrubber. This prevents brake pulsations by the rotor once installed by removing dust and debris and rust and material that could get stuck between the hub and the rotor. A wire brush and some 80 grit sandpaper can help you get all the fine little edges that the scrubber may miss. This also helps ensure that the lug nuts tighten up properly and they don't back off on you at a later date. When the wheel hub is cleaned to perfection, install the rotor. Don't forget the plug for the parking brake. I like prepping my caliper bracket and pads on the bench. I'll grease the pins, I'll grease the pads, and I'll do a test fit. Once pads and pins are all moving perfect, I install. That's just right. This makes putting the caliper on easier for me, and I'll install the bolts and torque them down. Once installed, I like to do another test fit just to make sure again that everything's moving properly. Flexible brake hoses. This is a screw-in style with a flare at the end to seal the brake fluid versus a banjo bolt and washers that are more common. Once tightened and sealed, I like to work on the other end of the old hose. This minimizes fluid loss. Here we have a hard line and a bracket. Break the fitting loose. Remove the disconnect clip from the hose. There's a plastic liner inside of the flexible brake hose that can break down with time and mileage of any vehicle. When this happens, the liner inside the hose will act like a one-way check valve and it won't allow the fluid to flow properly, especially in one direction. The direction will be releasing the brakes, which causes them to drag. This can be hard to notice because when applying the brakes, you can override the blockage with hydraulic force, so the brakes feel normal. Once the brake line fittings are tight and the hose clip is tight and secure, clean it up and check for leaks. The best way to clean this ABS sensor is compressed air. Don't forget to replace brakes in pairs. Once everything is installed on both sides, bleed the brakes. There are many ways to do this, so use the method that you prefer. Once all the parts are installed correctly, triple check to make sure there's no leaks. Test your brake pedal for feel. It should be nice and firm and solid. If the pedal doesn't feel right, repeat the bleeding procedure until it does. Install the wheels and prep for final tightening. Spin your wheels to check for abnormal noise. This sound is the brake pads tickling the rotor and is completely normal. Torque all lug nuts to specs. Dot 3 and 4 is the most common brake fluid for all vehicles and they are compatible with each other. Make sure it's full during the bleeding process and before test drive and check for leaks.